Welcome back to another hot seat coaching episode. If you're looking to create meaningful content and inspire your audience, this episode is a must listen. Jessica Hayes joins me today to chat about her intentions for Instagram and how to reach her audience. She's all about helping busy Christian moms strengthen their family relationships, spiritual growth, and mental health. We dig deep into what Jessica wants to be known for, mapping out her content for the month and her calls to action. I also want to mention before we dive in, I'm doing another round of the Instagram Growth Bootcamp. Yes, this is round 3 and we kick off September 3rd. I'm sure you know the potential of Instagram, but what if you're feeling stuck when it comes to growth and figuring out the right strategy to use? Get on the waiting list for the bootcamp. Whether you're just starting out, you already have a presence, or you're wanting to take your Instagram game to the next level, this bootcamp is for you. You'll get done in 8 weeks, what will take you over 1 year to accomplish on your own. Just imagine what it will feel like to be the content creation workflow queen, always knowing what to post, finally get your Instagram account as an attraction machine, grow your following organically and connect with people on the daily, and finally break through mindset blocks so you can take control over your time spent on Instagram. Get on the wait list. Link is in the show notes. Okay, let's get back to the show. Hey there, Mom Boss. Welcome to the Social Media for Mompreneurs podcast, where we dive into Instagram, personal branding, marketing hacks, and content creation strategies, all while balancing family life. And don't forget, we do it the fun and easy way. I'm Allison Scholes, once a corporate marketing coordinator, a teacher, and now podcaster and coach. And yes, I'm that boss lady in sweatpants. Go ahead and hand out the kids' tablets, open those juice boxes, grab your coffee or wine, and hide in your closet. Let's get this party started. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Social Media for Mompreneurs podcast. Today is a great episode because we are going to do some more hot seat coaching for Instagram. And today we have Jessica Hayes on the show. So welcome, Jessica.
Hey, Allison. Thanks for having me.
Of course, I'm glad you're here. And I get really excited about doing these episodes because they're not your typical podcast episode. This is a chance for me to really help listeners and my clients on how to just show up themselves, actually just to be their best self on Instagram. And I just love talking through the frustrations and the problems when it comes to Instagram branding, growing an Instagram presence. And that's why you're here today. So I want to know from you, Jessica, first and foremost, what do you do and who you serve?
Yes. Well, I help women strengthen their most important life relationships. And so I do that primarily through podcasting, and then I'm working on some digital courses. I've been a marriage and family therapist for over 10 years. And so I have a lot of experience, but I'm not in the counseling room anymore. I've shifted to a digital ministry. And so that part of it is all new for me. Like, how do I use Instagram? And I have a podcast and that sort of thing. So that's where I'm at today. My ideal audience is Christian moms, basically moms who, they're married, they're either at home or at home most of the time, maybe working part-time. They've got kids running around their feet all day, and it's just overwhelming to try to maintain the relationships that are most important to them. How do they keep close to God? How do they maintain their own mental health? How do they love their family and still have time to volunteer or see a friend and all that kind of stuff? So those are the women that I'm trying to serve.
And I can bet that a lot of your women are listening to my show, and I know that they feel that they need help with their life relationships and find that alignment and that balance in everything they do with their spouse and their kids. And maybe they are working or they're not working, or just life relationships in general. So I want to know from you, Jessica, what's your biggest frustration or problem when it comes to Instagram? Because what you're doing is great. And I think your message really needs to be out there to help those Christian moms.
Thank you. And my biggest struggle right now is probably Instagram, because I feel comfortable with the podcast and the content and what I have to offer the women who I serve. But I've never really been personally a big social media user. And I know that the moms that I want to serve are on Instagram, not only Instagram, but that's kind of their primary social media hub. So I've been trying to get more familiar with the platform. But I don't want to spend a ton of time because I know I can't, I know myself, I can get sucked in to just scrolling through the feed and all the cute pictures and whatever. Um, so I don't want to take a ton of time for it, but I also want to be like, my husband and I are very intentional about, like, we don't post pictures of our kids on social media. And so I'm kind of in that, like, okay, I know I'm building a personal brand. I want to connect with my audience. I'm happy to, put my picture out there, but I don't want to do a ton of like personal, deep family stuff on social media. And so it's kind of like, well, how do I connect with people in a real way without, I guess, with having clear boundaries myself about what I'm comfortable sharing from a personal side.
I'm really glad that you brought this up because I think we need to understand that we need to, as entrepreneurs and everyday users of Instagram, I think it's great that you are recognizing those boundaries. And I think you should listen to them. If you don't want to show pictures of your children and your family on Instagram, then I don't think you need to, just because other people are choosing to do it and they're okay with it doesn't mean that you have to do it. So I'm really happy to hear that you've recognized that boundary and you're following that boundary. And I do believe that you can absolutely grow your brand, your presence on Instagram without showing pictures of your kids. And you are willing to show pictures of you, which is great because you represent the business, the brand. You are the person behind the brand. So I think number one, just give yourself permission and grace to allow yourself to follow that boundary because I don't think it's a boundary that you have to cross to grow
Mm-hmm.
on Instagram. So your intentions for Instagram, well, let's talk about that. Like, you know that your ideal audience is on Instagram. But when it comes to Instagram, why do you want to be on it? Like, what are your intentions for it right now? And when it comes to Instagram, what do you want to be known for? Because I think when we take a step back and we clarify, number one, what's our intentions? And number two, what do we want to be known for? That is going to help guide how you show up and create the content for Instagram. So, to define your intentions, do you want to build brand awareness? Do you want to drive traffic to your podcast? Do you want to build brand authority, build an email list? So, when you're thinking of your initial intentions for Instagram, what really comes to mind for you?
That's a great question because everything you listed sounds great. But I think right now, because I'm so new, the podcast is new, this ministry is new, the top two goals that I would have with social media is to get people to the podcast because they can get deeper and richer content than they can on Instagram, at least for me and the way I'm doing it right now.
Hmm.
So to get people to the podcast, and I guess secondary to that would be getting people connected with my email list because I do have a few different freebies that I know are really helpful for people, but I don't want, as I build an audience, I don't want them to feel like I'm spamming them. I
Right.
genuinely think these could be helpful and that could get more people connected with an email list.
So, with your intentions, you want to drive traffic to your podcast because that is where you have your richest content, which is so cool that you said that. So, knowing that your podcast is your richest content, what you can do is you can pull out little juicy tips from an episode and you can spread that out on Instagram as individual posts. And then you can lead into, if you want to learn more about, bullet points, this, and this, go listen to episode, 102 on the podcast. And then that's a great way to drive traffic for them to learn more. Because what you're doing when you're doing that through your post, you're going to build the know, like, and trust. People are really going to get to know you through your news feed. Then they want to get to like you. Once they're over on your podcast, you're building the trust. When they're
Mm-hmm.
on your email list, you're building the trust. So really, you really want to get them to really know you on Instagram. So I love your intentions to drive traffic to your podcast and then connect through your email list. Now, when it comes to Instagram, let's say the Christian moms start following you, they're loving you. When they interact with your content and when they look at your account, Jessica, what do you want to be known for?
Oh, that's a great question.
And this one
I
normally tricks people up because they're like, oh, I'm going to be known
yeah.
for something. What am I going to be known for?
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting to think about.
Yes.
I think I would like to be known for being encouraging and practical.
Okay.
Um, I mean, obviously, I want my post to achieve my mission and help women strengthen their relationships, but I want to do that in a way where they can feel this is this is a little boost of motivation or energy or encouragement, kind of pushing me in the right direction that I already know I need to go in. I want to go in, but here's kind of a practical tip in an encouraging way that's like realistic for their lives.
Okay. So now that we have clarity, you have now clarity on your intentions. You know what you want to be known for. You're going to be the encouraging, practical person. Now it gets to the content because your initial frustration was the content. And I always like to take a step back and say, well, let's get some clarity first. Let's get clarity on your intentions and on your brand and the reasons why you're there. And once you have that clarity, then you know what kind of content to create. So we already know that you want to drive people to your podcast and you want to build your email list. You want to be encouraging and you want to be practical. So now we can take those elements and we can build content based off of that. So what I think for you would be a really great idea, because I know you don't want to spend a lot of time on Instagram and I don't blame you. I don't think anybody truly wants to spend a lot of time on Instagram and they fall into the rabbit hole, right, of scrolling. Then that's when imposter syndrome and comparisonitis kicks into gear. And then we just kind of want to throw in the towel and go, oh, I can't do what this person's doing, or they're doing this and they're doing that. And really, I want you to give yourself grace and permission to just say, I don't have to do all of that because I know my intentions for being on Instagram and I'm going to stick to who I am. And this is how I'm going to show up authentically for my audience. So once we make that shift in our minds that this is what we're going to do, then it's almost freeing to say, I'm just going to spend a little time on Instagram and be really intentional when I'm on it. And being intentional when you're on it, that's when you're posting your niched content. You're going to respond to all comments on your post and you're going to be leaving valuable posts on other or leave valuable comments on other posts to people who you relate to or they're your ideal audience. So once we get intentional on Instagram, then Instagram is no longer like this fight. We finally have control over Instagram, and Instagram is no longer controlling us. So let's move to your content. And I think the best way is this is how I plan my content for Instagram is at the end of the month, I will just look at the next month calendar and I'll just look at a snapshot of the calendar and decide, okay, are there any holidays or events that I want to make sure that I talk about? And I simply just circle it or mark it on my calendar. Once I've done that, then what I can do is I can say, okay, what does consistency look like to me? Which is really cool. There's no rules on consistency. There's so many gurus or experts out there preaching you need to be consistent. You need to be consistent. If you want to grow your followers, if you want to get to 10,000 followers, you have to be posting twice a day, 7 days a week. I think that's crazy. And again, we need to go back to our intentions. So you get to decide, Jessica, on your consistency. What feels right to you? How many days a week do you want to post? So you can decide your consistency. And then based off of that, we can create content categories. And you can put that in a calendar, and those categories or post types is going to be the kind of content you're going to put out there on Instagram. So knowing that you want to drive traffic to your podcast, I think at least once a week, if you're releasing podcast episodes every single week. You need to have a post on your latest podcast episode. Give us a juicy detail. Give us a story. What's the takeaway for our audience? And then your call to action can be go listen to the episode to learn more or get more out of it. You can even take a little snippet from your podcast episode and make it into a quote, something you've said that was really powerful. Create your own quote graphic because that is your encouraging, right? You want to be encouraging. Now you have a quote graphic that's from your podcast episode. And again, you can be driving traffic to your podcast. So, really, what you could do is take one piece of content that's your podcast episode and create different posts for the week in your newsfeed. So you're not going to be spending a lot of time creating all different kinds of content. You really don't need to do that. You have the content already. You have your experience, you have your life experience, which you can certainly talk about. You can have that as a once a week post type. It can be about you or your personal insights. And you can talk about your experience that relates to that week's podcast episode. You can even create little tips or maybe one of your episodes is like 4 strategies or 4 tips to, X, Y, and Z. You can even create a carousel post within Canva, and each post or each slide can be tips 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, you're driving traffic to your podcast. So I think for you, it's just simplifying, taking one piece of content for the week, mapping it out on a calendar for the week of what feels good to you. So you can have your personal insights. You can talk about you and your experiences related to that podcast episode, any tips or tutorials that you have in there. What are the long-term emotional benefits? Because we always have to think of why should our audience care? How would they relate to this? So does that help you start to construct content in your mind for Instagram?
It does, yeah. And it sounds like you would recommend like sticking with the week, not like I have an episode on July 1st. And so then on July 15th, I have, a little piece about that, but just keeping it like, if this is the current episode,
Yeah.
this is where social media is focused. And then next week, we're on to the next topic.
Exactly. Yeah. And that goes right in line with your podcast. And then every so often you can mix in your freebies. If your freebie is somewhat related to that episode, because you said you have a few. So choose a freebie that is relatable to your episode. Maybe at the end of the week on Friday is your freebie Friday. So in your Instagram bio, I'm not sure if you have one standard link or if you're using something like Linktree and you can have multiple links. You can have in there your freebie and your podcast. And then maybe just if you have your own website, connect with me on my website. Does that help you so far?
It does. Yes, that's very helpful.
Any other questions regarding Instagram?
No, I mean, I think those are great tips. Those are great tips and ideas about particularly where I'm at today. Because I'm sure as I get more comfortable with Instagram, some stuff will feel easy and I'll do more of it. And some stuff I'll drop off because it just is not connecting with my audience or with myself.
Right.
But yeah, that's a great place to start as I'm trying to build things.
And I'm glad you said that, because just start with the one thing and get super consistent with it and get super comfortable with it. And once you feel that you're mapping out content for the month, you're taking little golden nuggets from your weekly episodes, and then you're starting to build those connections, then you can say, okay, I'm ready for the next thing. What can I do now to go deeper with my audience? Because I think a lot of the times we do consume so much content on Instagram and we do feel that we have to do all the things like, oh my gosh, I need to do video and I need to do reels and I need to be in my Instagram stories 10 times a day and I need to be posting. Just do the one thing and get really comfortable with it and consistent and confident. then you can do another thing to build on top of that. Because the biggest thing for Instagram, it is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It takes a long time to get yourself out there, to build the presence, to build the connections. And then those connections down the road become your leads and your customers. But it takes time and it takes consistency. But here's the cool thing, Jessica, you get to decide what that consistency is, and you get to stick to your own consistency. So give yourself grace, give yourself permission to do what you want to do on the platform and show up in your most authentic self the way you want to do it. Thank you for tuning in today. If you loved today's episode, then please head over to iTunes, social media for mompreneurs, and leave a review. Your review helps grow the show. And don't forget, head to bossladyandsweatpants.com to grab all my freebies and hang out with me on Instagram at Allison Scholes. I'll see you soon.